Hey guys, this is my video project for liquid and gas flow for summer of 2023 for OSUIT fluid flow on Mars. Alright, we had several options to do this, so this is my option. I'm going to talk. You'll see my image way down here. It's going to be very small because I want you guys to focus on my PowerPoint presentation more than anything. Alright, so without further ado, let's start this off. Alright. Now this is how we're going to do it. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Our ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. Now I realize that's probably a little cheesy, but before you start saying something, let's think about those four first letters in this phrase. Because let's face it, space will be the final frontier for us. I would argue and say that both space and Earth's oceans would be the final frontier for us, but we don't have the technology to explore the deepest, darkest places of our oceans yet, and we probably never will. But I'm going off topic. We're talking about space here, so yeah. So let's focus on space, the final frontier. So with that being said, here's my project, Fluid Flow on Mars, how to turn science fiction into science fact. Now, before we get started, let's get a few things off our shoulders, shall we? Let's get real here. Anybody who's seen Aliens knows what this is. The atmospheric processing unit. Now, as much as I'd love to have one of these, to make the atmosphere breathable, it's basically a giant air scrubbing unit. And it goes in, it makes the air breathable, the colonists get it more done. It strengthens the atmosphere, the whole 9 yards. But let's face it, guys, that's science fact. That's not science fact, it's science fiction. Would be nice, but this is a fact report, not a science fiction report. Second, are you kidding me? Yeah. Anybody who's seen Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger knows what this is. It's the Martian reactor to restart the atmosphere on Mars. Now, we know by fact that the whole core of Mars is not ice. Now, regardless of it, it was a fun idea. It was an interesting theory. But let's face it, Mars is the same way as Earth is, as Venus is, as Mercury is, and all the other planets. It has a molten core. Just like Earth, just like Mercury, just like Venus, just like all the others. So this would not be logical. Fact from fiction, people. Come on. So, without further ado, and that aside, let's go to the fact part, or the logical part of this. First, let's get some real things straight, people. If you're going to get this done, you need to pay attention to the seasonal planetary cycles as follows. And yes, this is a photo of both the north and south poles of Mars. Now, moving right along, thank you NASA, by the way. Alright, here's the different seasons, and now let's face it, my idea of ice harvesting from the poles will be to alternate back and forth from one pole to the other. Now, like I said, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to observe the different seasons. Now, from northern winter to southern summer to northern spring to southern fall, that would be the best time to harvest ice from the North Pole. Now, from the northern summer to southern winter to northern fall to southern spring, that would be the best time to harvest ice from the South Pole. Once again, north winter, south summer, north spring, south fall. This side is away from the sun. This side is closer to the sun. Better time to harvest from the north. North summer, south winter, north fall, south spring. This side is facing the sun. This side of the planet is facing away from the sun. Best part to harvest from the South Pole. All right. Now, of course, before we get any further, the base will have to be at the equator because that's the warmest place on Mars. And let's face it, if you try to put one near the pole, you're probably going to freeze very quickly without proper equipment. So, what could you use? Well, let's look at some of the ATVs and ATV equipment that we could use. First of all, you could use something like this. Something like this. And yes, these are real vehicles. And yes, I cannot speak right now. Yes, these are real vehicles. This right here would be perfect for transporting workers back and forth. As with this, while you were getting the equipment built, this would be perfect, especially given the trailer that it pulls. This would be perfect to transport workers back and forth from the site. And once you have the site up and going, or at least one part of the site up and going, this would be good to transfer the ice back and forth if it was a refrigerated unit. So, now that being said, if you're going to be doing this, there's one more legit piece of equipment that you're going to need, people. You're going to need these. That's right, spacesuits. Because let's face it, Mars's atmosphere is nothing like Earth's atmosphere. And if you try and work outside without a spacesuit, you're going to have a really bad day real quick. So, let's face it. So, now, this is just concept 3D art, but you never know. Modern science nowadays and modern technology are coming up with some pretty interesting designs and some interesting prototypes and some interesting equipment that we could probably use later on down the road. As you can see, here's one for men, here's one for women, because, yeah, let's face it, times being what they are now, both sexes will probably want to try and work up there. And I have nothing wrong with that. The one problem is, with certain people, them turning it into a battle of the sexes. And that's something you don't want. There needs to be equality, there needs to be teamwork, otherwise stuff gets messed up, and that leads to getting people injured or killed. And you can be prosecuted for that. So, you need to keep a good mind, a sound mind for both sides. Both sides need to be trained well, and both sides need to know what they're doing. So, all right, now moving right along, here's the game changer. This is legit. Now look close, guys. Anybody who has seen work at the Antarctic knows what this is. This is a drill sampling unit. And these cylinders right here, these white cylinders, they're ice core samples. Now, we already know that this type of technology exists, so let's put it to good use. If we're going to be harvesting water from Mars, let's get one of these. Now, that being said, once you reach a certain location, you'll probably hit at the Mars soil. So you'll probably have to have the drill attached to a type of all-terrain vehicle that just goes around on taking random samples one by one and, extracting them through the tube into a refrigeration unit or a heating unit that melts the ice into water. Now here's another option, a heated piping system. Now this is the basic thing that I had in mind. Now of course this is a totally different design, but this is a design for the heated piping system to let you know what I'm thinking about. Melting the ice, heating the water, moving it to a different source. Even though it's cold water, you can still keep it warm. So, that being said, we're also going to need heated domes to keep this water from evaporating. Because, remember guys, the atmosphere on Mars is a lot different than that on Earth. You're going to need heated domes to keep the water from evaporating, and we need these both at the drilling site and at the drop-off site near the equatorial base. You're going to need stuff like this, not only to keep the water from freezing again, but when you're at the equator, you need to keep it from evaporating, like I've said before. Okay, now this would be the most productive method, but why? Well, let's talk about that. You would need, like I said, you need heated domes to keep the water from freezing or evaporating into the atmosphere. The average temperature on Mars is minus 60 degrees Celsius or minus 17 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold, guys. That's very cold, and you would freeze very quickly if you do not have the proper equipment. Heated piping systems from the poles, both north and south, to the base, and powered structures, or domed power building to keep the filtration systems and pumps running. This is mandatory. Now, the pipes and pumps could be either above ground or below ground. It doesn't matter. But you need to have the heated piping system going, and you need to have powered structures to keep that heating system going. You would need to build an extraction unit inside the drill to both transfer the ice to a larger tank with a heating system, melting it into water for its trip to the equatorial base via pump system. Another mandatory piece. Once more structures are built on the surface of Mars, the better. Which means the more hired hands you have means quicker production and better efficiency. You need to build these structures around the work area. That way it won't be that hard to get to where the work area is. The hired hands can just bunk in maybe let's say team bunkers, or they could also have their own personal apartments. Either way, the closer they are, the better. Now, to start off, before the piping system is complete, like I said, you can use gas-powered or electrical or solar-powered vehicles with heated compartments or trailers to keep the water from freezing again, like I've said before. Now, what materials would be used to build the system? Let's talk about that. For the pipes, either insulated metal or concrete, preferably the former. Definitely with heated coils and heated system powered by either wind generators, fossil fuel, or solar energy. Whatever comes natural. For the water filtration system, definitely the best water filters you can get. I mean, even though this water will probably be pure, let's face it, let's not take any chances. You never know. Water like this might contain disease germs from this planet, germs we couldn't cope with medically, or at least not yet. Same as I've described as before, for the housings containing them. Though if steel or some other material could be used, that would be fine as well. You need good structures and sound structures just to contain the filtration system that you have. For the structures that would store the equipment and housings for living areas, reinforced concrete, anti-UV thick plexiglass windows with concrete foundations, and, if necessary, you can even do lead shielding for protection against any extra type of radiation, if any. Because you never know. For the water storage, a tank either built of concrete, although if steel or some other material could be used, that would be fine as well. So there you go, people. And for the pump systems, no doubt about it, the best water pumps you can find for the piping and pump stations. And for the piping and pump stations, the same materials as I've described before for the containment systems, for the filtration systems, same thing. All right. Now we go to this. As always, hire the right individuals for the right job. This is the most important thing. Let's face it. Every staff member hired to perform each task needs to be given space training and endurance training on another planet by NASA or any top company that deals with space exploration. Well, let's face it. If you're going to be doing this, it's probably going to be NASA. Excuse me. That means your construction workers, your truck drivers, your engineers, your architects and draftsmen, and your manufacturers. Each one of these people needs to learn how to operate inside a spacesuit when they are outside. The truck drivers need to learn how to drive on a new planet, which probably wouldn't be too hard. And the construction workers, seeing as the gravity on Mars is different from Earth, they'll need to learn how to adapt to different working conditions, as would the engineers, architects and draftsmen, and the manufacturers. All right. Okay, guys, this concludes this video project. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for your time. And remember, glory to Mars! You are the future Martians! Okay, guys, thank you very much. This concludes the slideshow, and thank you for watching.